Good morning and welcome to Hardin Life Live. We are the Hardins and we are a family of counselors and coaches who are committed to bringing you a fresh perspective on how to live your best life, both biblically and therapeutically. So we are excited that this is a month of movies. There have been some great movies that have come out recently, but we are really wanting to capture different perspectives of how movies can be utilized in our lives to inspire and help us to see life in a new and fresh way. And I loved your blog this month, Dad. When I think of you, I think of the king of movie illustrations. If you come to one of our workshops, I know that you have seen a movie clip from the king himself. You lead a group on Friday mornings called Reel to Reel in Fairhope, real movie reels to real life application. And so, Dad, will you just tell us a little bit about why movies have been so impactful to use in your teaching and leadership?
Because I think that it parallels the teaching of Jesus. Jesus told stories. He told stories because, first of all, stories get our attention. Jesus told stories because it was to connect emotionally. And we cannot remember that which we don't feel. Because we do more of what we do because of the way we feel than what we think. Now, we think that we do what we do because of the way we think, but we really do what we do because of the way we feel. And stories help to capture our emotions, and then we begin to remember what to do because of stories or teaching that we've heard that have had great illustrations or great stories attached to them.
That's a really interesting point that you're sort of putting out there, that so many of us are doing things because we are thinking we're just following our thinking. But what you're really saying is actually, no, you are doing because of how you feel. So that would even explain why people go, I don't know why I want to do this, but I keep not doing it. It's probably because they're not acknowledging their real feelings. Most of us are tempted, I think, to live in our heads. And yet that's not really maybe what you're saying is who we are. Therefore, when we can get to the emotions and our feelings, it's going to make us more congruent and more authentic. And movies sort of quickly pull you back in to your more authentic self.
Well, and I even think of that living in your head kind of mentality. I think part of the reason why we try to solve everything in our head and live here in our head is because we're afraid of our emotions. We're afraid of our feelings. We're afraid of being overwhelmed by bad feelings. And so we try to do everything we can to solve things up here, live up here, so we don't go back to that experience of overwhelm, total tidal wave, take me out by anxiety, depression, pain, just hard stuff. And it's almost like movies invite us to engage with our emotions in a less overwhelming or less personal way because we're viewing someone else's story on a screen. And it's a way to dip our toe in and validate the need to engage with our emotions. It's almost like eating the elephant one bite at a time. Movies are a way to take bites of the elephant.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking what you're saying is that And I would even add to possibly the reason we even are drawn to movies is we want positive emotions that we don't know how to create within ourselves. And therefore, we need the movie to almost help us have an emotional experience.
Well, certainly, we want to protect ourselves from pain. We are averse to pain in general, and yet God is not afraid to use pain or suffering. In fact, that is a primary instrument in His hand to grow us. And when I stand before a group or I sit with one person in a counseling session, I always believe that I'm either dealing with a guilt issue or a hurt issue. That a person is either feeling guilt for what they've or they're feeling hurt for what they have had done to them. For example, I sat with a man the other day, working with he and his wife, and he affair, and they've been working to recover from the affair, and they're doing really well. She's worked through a lot of forgiveness, but he said to me, "I'm having a hard time forgiving myself," and it made me think of numerous movies. I mean, the one movie that I immediately thought of was The Shack, um, and how the character in the movie felt such anger and a inability to forgive others. But in many ways, what he was dealing with was the personal shame that he allowed what happened to his family to happen. And so, as I told my friend, um, I didn't believe that it was possible to forgive yourself. Where in Scripture does it say forgive yourself. It says to forgive as we've been forgiven. And what I suggested to him is that he was feeling more shame than the need to forgive himself.
Mm.
And the only way to deal with shame is to sit in the experience of being forgiven rather than being on your own, isolated, and somehow you can self generate forgiveness. No way.
So you recommended the movie The Shack, I'm sure.
I did. I did. I did. And, the movie is not about an affair per se, but it very much is about forgiveness and understanding how God's grace covers whatever the guilt or the hurt is in us. And so it's a great movie. Another movie that I love in forgiveness is I Can Only Imagine, the true story of Bart Millard of Mercy Me. And it was his life story and his whole journey of moving from anger and the inability to even realize his giftedness fully until he was freed of the hurt and the anger from a family story that he was dealing with.
Mhm.
Powerful story.
Over the years, hun, you've been so good at sort of finding these movies and movie clips. And it is an amazing ability that you sit in a theater, about 2 hours, and you can have a journey experience within yourself.
Mhm.
Audrey and I just taught a workshop this weekend, and we had a lot of people really wanting more self-awareness, and the people who just have gone through life and didn't know who they were in attempts just to follow the duties and needs of life. And my first go-to, because of your model, was recommend a movie. And I said, you need to go see that classic chick flick, Runaway Bride, because she couldn't follow through in her life because
Right.
she couldn't anchor who she was.
That's
And
right.
what I'm so thrilled, and I really hope everyone reads your blog this week, because we're not listing them all here. You listed your top 10 like movies? Were those for men, couples? Like let them know
Well,
what you list.
I wouldn't say that I listed my top 10. I would have had to
Okay.
spend more time. I just jotted down 10 movies that cover a wide range of issues in life. Like, for example, with anger issues, Antoine Fisher, for just a journey of really dealing with your past and taking charge of your life. The movie My Life. Um, Life is a house, a power movie of taking charge of your life when it has no direction and it's aimless. And then the movie on trauma. If anybody is dealing with trauma, the one movie. I mean, there's many movies, of course, that would be helpful, but the one movie that you must watch is Reign Over Me, a story about a man who loses his family in the 9/11 plane crash. Uh, uh, Fictitiously, not true, but that the plane crash that crashed in the Pennsylvania cornfield that was headed back to the Capitol, and what he was dealing with. Powerful picture of how to deal with trauma.
I love that. Well, again, your summer isn't over. We've got the remainder of July and August. So definitely check out Dad's blog to get some of those movies in your repertoire to engage with your emotion, engage with your own story, and to inspire you to really live beyond the everyday mundane.
And use it with this is great time. College kids are home, high school kids. You want to help create that kind of discussion. Hey, throw a movie on and talk about it.
Yeah, I love that. That was very familiar in our household.
What?
Oh, all right. Well,
He told stories, and if he came back today, I think he would show movie clips.
There you go.
There you go. And on that note, go watch some movies. We will check y'all out next week.